Hello everyone, welcome back. It is a new day, a new sleigh, and a new video where I have something to say. And today it's going to be a little different. Normally I come on here and I talk about the books that I'm reading, but now I'm going to talk about the books that I'm writing. If you didn't catch my video from last month, I announced that I had been secretly writing a children's book series called The Magical Morrisons. I haven't talked too much on my socials about it since then, but that's because I have a special announcement today. Right now, if you go on NetGalley, you can actually find an arc of one of the books in the series called Love Potion Commotion. And given that Hispanic Heritage Month is upon us, I thought this would be a perfect time to talk a little bit more about the Magical Morrisons. I'll be giving summaries on all 4 books, some fun details about the writing process, and overall just talking about how it was that I got to be a published author. So the first question I'm sure all of you have is, how did this happen? Let me give some context. If you didn't know, which I don't know if I've mentioned it in any of my videos before, but about 2 years ago, I graduated with a degree in creative writing. I was always labeled as like the artistic kid, so drawing, writing, musical theater, those were all like really big interests of mine. But it wasn't until I got into the later years of high school that I realized that I did have a big passion for writing. So I decided that that was what I wanted to study for the next 4 years of my life. In my senior year of college, I started writing my first novel, and in the summer of the year that I graduated, I decided that I was going to start putting work out into the world. Now, the first problem that I encountered quickly after graduating was that I only had so much time that I could really dedicate to writing, because I did have to have like a stable job and income. I got a new job working a traditional 9-to-5. I also started this channel because at some point I was like, well, it's kind of sad, but I was like, I might never really have a published novel, but I love books, I love reading, writing so much that this is the best way that I can still stay in the industry, even if it's not doing the thing that I initially wanted. Which ended up being like one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, because I absolutely love doing what I do. I love reading, I love talking about books, I like making my little rant reviews and talking to people in the comments. This was truly such a pivotal moment for me. And the fact that people like you guys that tune in every single week and watch my videos and interact with me, you guys make it possible for me to do this. I will always be grateful. I am eternally appreciative for this opportunity that I have. So I was at a point where I was like, okay, I'm on this YouTube thing, I still have my regular job, everything's going great. And then one day I get an email, and it's a publisher, and they're reaching out to me about an opportunity to work with them. Now, I got this email right before I left for Portland last year. I'm literally on my last day before I take PTO. I'm trying to get things figured out. I'm still trying to pack. Everything's crazy. And all of a sudden I see this email. Now, I think I responded in a very typical way that I think anyone would respond to a kind of email like the one I got. I immediately thought it was a scam. So the first thing I did was I'm like vetting, I'm going through LinkedIn. I'm like, I need to make sure that this is a real person and this is a real publisher. Because you know what they say with like those kinds of scams. If it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. But everything was checking out. This was a legit email from a legit person on behalf of a legit publisher. Now, initially, I was really on the fence. I did not know if I wanted to sign off on this opportunity. And there was a lot of reasons. First, logistically, I'm like, I have my YouTube thing. I have a regular 9-to-5 job. How am I going to take on essentially a third job on top of it? I'm like, I'm already kind of stretched thin as it is. I don't know if I can really dedicate the proper time and effort to a project like this. And then there was also like the internal struggle where I'm like, I'm lying. They think I'm way better than I actually am. So I'm like gaslighting myself. I'm feeling crazy imposter syndrome. I'm like, there is no way that even if I write these books, no one will read them. And also, everyone I've ever known in my life has only worked a traditional job. This is whole new, uncharted territory for me. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So immediately I go to talk to my mom and my sister, and they're like my biggest supporters of all time. Even when I was starting the channel, they're my first 2 subscribers. So I'm talking this over with them and I'm like, hey, I don't know if I should do this. But like without question, they were like, you're absolutely going to do this. And truly, I don't think I could have gotten through this entire process if it had not been for their support. Like my mom and my sister knew my project deadlines. They made sure I stuck to them. They made sure I was getting sleep, that I was fed, everything. So needless to say, I did take on a third job during this time. And it was incredibly stressful. There were times that I was so tired, I was shaking. It's funny to think of now, but at the time, there were some moments that I was really struggling. I was like, I can't do this. I just need to quit. But honestly, after all that, I'm so proud of all the work that I did. I'm so proud of the final product. And you know, I am a bit of a perfectionist, so do I think I could have done more? Absolutely. I will never not feel like that. But if anything, those feelings have just given me like even more of a creative spark. And it really just reminded me of why I wanted to do this in the first place. I love writing so much. It's truly just so rewarding seeing your work and putting things together. Ugh, I love being a creative. But now it's a year later. All that time, effort, labor has accumulated into the final product. So now I'm going to be talking about the 4 books in the series of the Magical Morrisons, starting with Love Potion Commotion. Since, of course, this is the one that's available on NetGalley, so I'm sure you want to get a little bit more details on it. So Love Potion Commotion, as a brief summary, follows our 2 main characters, Nina and Mateo Morrison. Sorry, this is a little weird. I'm not used to doing the brief summaries about my own books. But anyway, in this story, there's an upcoming school dance that Nina wants to attend with her friends. But there's also a new kid at her school named David, and she has a little bit of a crush on him. Nina is a bit on the shy side, so no matter what she does, it seems like she can't get up the nerve to ask him to the dance. See, for her, she's just so nervous. It's just so hard not to embarrass herself in front of him. It would be so much easier if she just knew that he liked her already. If only there was a way for her to know if David liked her or not. Maybe a potion, a love potion. Yes, so in this story, we follow Nina as she is brewing a love potion to give to David, but it doesn't go according to plan. What follows is a night of chaos, adventure, and some magical mischief. So that's a spoiler-free summary. I can't reveal anything more than that. But if that sounds interesting to you, then I recommend that you go on NetGalley and request the arc for yourself. Or if you want to go a step above that, I suggest you check out the pre-order links in my bio to pre-order your copy of Love Potion Commotion. Now, as a bit of an inside scoop on this book, this is actually the second one that I wrote in the series. Technically, the Magical Morrisons doesn't follow a chronological format, so you can read any of these books in whatever order. But in the order I wrote them, this is actually the second one. And it's actually a bit of a funny story because when I first sat down to write these books, obviously I did them one at a time. I went through an outline first, got everything approved, and I was ready to actually start writing. I talked to my editor. She's like, this is the word count we're aiming for, and just send it to me by this time. And I said, okay. The average word count we were shooting for was about 6,000 to 8,000 words. So I sit down to write. The first book that I wrote in this overall series is War Peril. And I'm looking at my outline and I'm writing this book, and very quickly I'm realizing that the book is too long. And somehow in my brain, I thought it was better to just write the whole thing out and send it unedited so that my editor could pick out what she liked best and then we could cut from there. You might be thinking, Kristen, that's not a big deal. Surely you only wrote an extra like 1,000 or 2,000 words, right? I wrote 17,000 words, easily double of what was required of me. And somehow, again, this is my first time doing this. I am inexperienced, obviously, and somewhere in my brain, I thought that this made sense. So I send it over to my editor. And almost immediately she comes back and she's like, this is way too long. You need to cut this down significantly before I can even look at it. Needless to say, it caused a bit of a delay. And you know what? Shout out to my editor. Truly, I'm so sorry to her for having to deal with me. I truly didn't do it on purpose. Like, I didn't have any malice in my heart. It was just pure ignorance. Again, funny now, but at the moment, I was like crushed. So I'm trying to go through and edit it, and I'm really struggling. I'm only able to cut it down by like 1,000 or 2,000 words. So at some point, I literally sat down at my desk. I have a whiteboard over my desk. I erased everything, and in big red letters, I wrote, "Kill your darlings," because I just had to tell myself, I'm like, this is not all necessary. I had included like some crazy specific details. Like, one of the locations in the overall book series is the greenhouse. Nina and Mateo's mom is like a botanist. A lot of her magic is very like plant-based, so she grows a lot of things in this greenhouse. So the characters are there a lot, and at one point, I had included this side detail where I was like, this greenhouse is going to be bigger on the inside but smaller on the outside, very much like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. And on the inside of this greenhouse, there's going to be this huge mango tree, and it'll be passed down from generations of the Morrisons, and it's going to be huge and very central to the plot. I scrapped the whole thing. Like, it was a cute idea in theory, but it just did not fit at all with any of the storylines that I wanted to tell. So that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately, but it made me a better writer overall. Now I'm able to do a lot of that like self-editing first before I actually send it off for the edits. But anyway, Love Potion Commotion. I'm gonna say that the cover is one of my favorites out of all 4. I just really like the colors and the hearts. Listen, I'm a little girly girl. I like hearts and I like pink. And honestly, the scene that is depicted on the cover is like exactly how I was picturing it when I wrote it. So like the illustrator, he's incredibly talented. Love all the art that he provided for these books. He perfectly captured what I was thinking in my mind. So it was like real synergy in that moment. This book was really fun for me to write specifically because of the potions. This book is very like potion heavy. And because of that, I had to put a lot of effort into the ingredients in every potion that I was including. As a little fun tidbit, there's a potion in the beginning of that book, which is just like a simple healing serum. And this is an example of one of the ways that I wanted to include some of my cultural background into the book. So 2 of the ingredients in the healing potion, one of them is frog spit. And the reason I chose frog spit, which I'm sure many people know, there's a saying in Spanish when someone gets hurt, you know, sana sana colita de rana, si no sana hoy, sanará mañana. Yeah, that was just supposed to be a fun little play on that saying. So that was one, but the other ingredient is spider silk. And the reason I included that is because I had heard from some of my relatives that back in the day, if someone got like a cut or any kind of wound, they would use spider webs to help close it. Now, as a kid, I did not know how to process this information. I could not picture it in my mind. I was imagining that one scene from Shrek where he like gets all the spider webs and makes cotton candy, and that's what they would do with wounds. But supposedly a few other regions do the same thing. Like, this isn't like an urban legend, if you will. This is like kind of a common practice. I've never done it, but I thought it would be fun to include it as one of the potion ingredients as kind of a nod to that. And there's another ingredient actually from the Love Potion, and this is a cardinal feather. And there's a few reasons why I decided to include this. First, I'm from Illinois, Chicago. The cardinal is our state bird. They are everywhere around here. So that was one. 2, I have this very core memory where one time I was with my mom and we saw a cardinal, and she pointed at the bird and said, "Pajarito, pajarito, ¿dónde está mi suerte?" And she said that if you said this to a red bird, it would fly away into the direction of your true love. So I thought to myself, what better ingredient then to include in a love potion? So those are just some of the fun details that I added in Love Potion Commotion. But now I'm going to talk about the next book, which is Prank War Peril. Again, just to briefly summarize, this book is more closely following Mateo than it is Nina. Every year, the Morrison family holds a prank war where they all compete using magic to see who can become the prankster of the year. Since Mateo is 8 years old this year and finally has his magical abilities, in this world, everyone gets their abilities at 8. He is now eligible to participate in the prank war, and he is eager to win. This is a competitive family, but his older sister Nina, who is 12 and has more experience with magic, is quickly gaining speed. She's in the lead in the prank war. So desperate to score some points in the prank war, Mateo looks into the family spell book for inspiration. He finds a special potion recipe that he intends to use as a prank on his sister. But this potion is not what it seems, and very quickly, things start to go wrong. So this book has more of that sibling rivalry, some clever tricks, and, you know, some shenanigans, as I promised. I won't say much more than that because I don't want to spoil what happens, but I will give some fun facts on how I wrote the story. The hardest part with all the books, but specifically this one because this was the start, was coming up with the spells. In a lot of ways, it was like writing little poems, and I'm not good at poetry. You would think someone who likes writing would then also like poems. Not the same thing. That would be like asking someone who likes to paint if they also like to carve out sculptures from marble. Yes, it's both technically art, but very different techniques. So I was really struggling to come up with the words and phrases for these spells. So part of my research actually was watching Wizards of Waverly Place because I wanted to make the spells a little like diverse. I didn't want them to all follow like the same pattern. So some of the spells are just like 2 words. Some of them are full phrases. I included some like nonsensical words just to like rhyme. I also did include some spells in Spanish because true to form, this is a Hispanic household, but it was so funny because I would be like writing to myself, and for some of the spells, I had to like keep in mind the syllables and just like I would say them out loud to make sure that they sounded at least like kind of like a spell. So I would literally just be sitting on my couch in the dead of night, like everything's dark. I'm illuminated by my computer screen, and I would just be whispering these spells to myself to see if they made sense. I'm sure it looked horrifying from a distance. Escucha las palabras de las brujas, los secretos escondidos en la noche. But it was a lot of fun for me, and you know, quickly I got the hang of it. So as the books kind of progressed, I was able to get a little bit more creative with it, add my own flair, and honestly, I'm pretty proud of the word plays that I put in a lot of these spells. But overall, I would say that Prank War Peril is a love letter to the younger siblings of the world. I myself am the youngest, so I fall into a big shadow. I have a lot to prove. So yeah, I actually had a lot of fun also writing in Mateo's perspective, which I thought I would initially struggle with because, you know, he's like a young boy and I am not. But his was actually the easiest perspective for me to write from. Honestly, it was a little hard with Nina because I picture her as like kind of like a popular girl, or at the very least like someone that just like draws people to her. Like she just has charisma. I don't think I have that. So trying to capture the personality of someone that is just like a natural born leader and just like has people that are drawn to her, it was a little difficult. I was definitely not speaking from experience, but I do love both characters equally. I had a lot more of an easier time writing from Mateo's perspective because I am also a younger sibling. The other book that really follows a little bit closer to his perspective is A Bad Case of the Broomies. So A Bad Case of the Broomies is, again, following a little bit closer with Mateo. Mateo and Nina both take classes to kind of learn how to use their magic, and their parents are putting them to the test. They're given 3 different spells that they each have to learn and cast correctly in order to pass. As the days lead up to this test, Mateo gets more and more nervous, and he contracts a bad case of the Broomies. In this magical world, Broomies is something that happens to young witches when they get nervous or otherwise have a lot of emotions, and it interferes with their magic and makes it go haywire. So as Mateo is feeling nervous about this upcoming test, he is slowly losing control of his magical abilities. I will say that out of all 4 books, I think this is the one that is closest to my heart. I, of course, have so much love for all 4 books individually, but this one speaks a little bit closer to my own personal experiences. I mean, growing up, I was always a kid that just had a lot of nervous energy. I was very panicky. And I think I've talked about it on the channel before, but I'm also a recovering gifted kid. So I was always put in these advanced classes, and I always had a pressure to perform. And you know, as a kid, I didn't really have the words to describe what it was that I was feeling. But deep down, I think I just really wanted to prove myself. I wanted to show that like I deserved to be in these classes. I deserved to have people praise me. And if I wasn't constantly trying to prove that, then I was lacking somehow. So having Mateo experience something similar and having these big emotions displayed through him losing control of his magic was something that just immediately clicked. I remember I was at my local library when I was writing this book, and I literally started crying because as I was writing the ending, it was like everything that I ever wanted to hear as a kid going through that experience, and the exact things that I wish that other people would understand when it comes to how they express emotions and how they handle stress. So I just hope that for anyone that reads A Bad Case of the Broomies, anyone that sees themselves in Mateo can also learn alongside him on how to deal with these big emotions. And now, the last book in the Magical Morrisons, which is Field Day Face Off. In this book, we get a greater look at the magical community outside the Morrison family. The Greater Witch community is hosting a field day event. Magical families will come from all over to this one spot where they will gather and face off in a field day tournament. The winner of which will earn the praise of the leader of this community, which is the Grand Witch. In this book, Nina goes against her arch nemesis, Becca. They've had a feud ever since Nina was 8 years old, and it was her first field day tournament. And now this year, both Nina and Becca's younger brothers are going to be competing in the tournament as well. Nina and Mateo must team up to get through the tournament together and win the final prize. Now this book was definitely, I want to say, the most fun to write because it has the most magic. This book was really where I got to explore the greater world of the Magical Morrisons and just be like as adventurous as I wanted to. When I was planning the storyline for this book, I literally had like a whiteboard and I just like drew all these pictures of like dragons and eggs and nests and like all these different things. And it looked like a mess because I'm not an artist, but it quickly grew because I just kind of realized like I could do anything. I could include any magical aspect I want. So I had a lot of free reign and I think it worked pretty well in this story. It was also a lot of fun because in the other 3 books, Nina and Mateo, you know, they're siblings, they have their little rivalry, and there are instances where they have to team up, but it's mainly to solve a problem or to kind of fix a mess. This is really the first time that we see them team up on their own terms. So we really get to see how much of a powerful duo they are, their strengths and weaknesses, and just like how intelligent they both are. Because anyone with siblings will tell you that, you know, apart, powerful enough, right? Together against a common enemy, unstoppable. It was nice because in the other 3 books, I did have them do like their little sibling rivalry and bickering, which is pretty normal. And, you know, it was like fun to write. But this was great because I got to also show the other side of having a sibling, which is like them teaming up and really being on the same side and wanting to help each other because they're siblings at the end of the day. And like, aside from all the minor fights that they will always have each other's backs no matter what. So this book has dragons, magical riddles, flying brooms, the works, plus a lot of action and adventure. And I think it's really fun. But anyway, for now, that's all I'm going to say about the Magical Morrisons. I would love to divulge more fun facts and secrets behind writing these books. And of course, I will talk about it more and more as we get closer to the publication date, which is January 1st of next year, 2026. But for now, I think I will leave it here. It feels so far away, but I know it's gonna go by so quickly. And I can't wait to give you all of the extra details, show you more of the art that's included, and of course, go through more of the fun facts because there are more potions, more spells, more cute little details, and cameos from some of my friends and family that are in the book. Yeah, I made some of the people I know canon in the Magical Morrison series. Again, you can check out an advanced copy of Love Potion Commotion on NetGalley, and if any of these books sound interesting to you, you can pre-order them using the links in my description. They're available pretty much everywhere for pre-order, so I hope you'll check it out. And yeah, next week I will be back to my normal reviews. I had waited too long to talk about this. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've pre-ordered the book, love you. And if this sounds interesting to you, this is a middle grade series, so about 8 to 12 years old, but really, I think it's good for anyone. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. I know we have some time, but I'm a little nervous, but you know, I'm proud of what I've done. And I can't wait to share it with you all in January. But anyway, that's the end of the video. If you want to learn more about the Magical Morrison series, be sure to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on all my social media at Listen to Kristen on TikTok, Instagram, and BlueSky. Also, be sure to follow me on GoodReads, and while you're on the site, add my books to your want to read lists. But anyway, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. I haven't even told you guys about the 5th member of the Morrison family, but I will save that for later. Thank you.